for tonight's national championship game between the champions of the St. Louis Regional, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, and the champions of the Phoenix Regional, the Connecticut Huskies. Let's meet the starting lineups. At forward for Georgia Tech, a 6'7" junior from Birmingham, Alabama, number 55, Anthony McHenry. At forward for Connecticut, a 6'5" sophomore from Lakeland, Florida, number 31, Rashad Anderson. At forward for Georgia Tech, a 6'4" senior from Germantown, Maryland, number 24, Marvin Lewis. At forward for Connecticut, a 6'10" freshman from Mount Airy, Maryland, number 21, Josh Boone. At center for Georgia Tech, a 7'1" junior from Hope Forest, South Australia, number 12, Luke Schenscher. At center for Connecticut, a 6'10" junior from Houston, Texas, number 50, Emeka Okafor. At guard for Georgia Tech, a 6'4" junior from Madison, Georgia, number 1, B.J. Elder. At guard for Connecticut, a 6'1" senior from Queens, New York, number 12, Talik Brown. At guard for Georgia Tech, a 6'3" sophomore from Port Washington, Maryland, number 3, Jarrett Jack. And at guard for Connecticut, a 6'3" junior from Mount Vernon, New York, number 4, Ben Gordon. Assisting the Yellow Jackets tonight are Dean Keener, Willie Reese, and Cliff Warren. The head coach for Georgia Tech is Paul Hewitt. Assisting the Huskies are Tom Moore, George Blaney, and Clyde Vaughn. And the head coach for Connecticut is Jim Calhoun.
Jim Calhoun has never lost in the Final Four. He's 3-0, having won the championship in '99 over Duke and defeating Duke here on Saturday. And Billy, here are your championship points. Take it away.
Well, Mr. Perfect, and he came out a little bit late, but Okafor has, as we know, been the nation's best player this year. He is incredible. You can see his stats, 17 points per game. In the game they played earlier this year, though, with back problems, he did not have a big game, only 2 for 10. He had 6 blocks, played 34 minutes, but the nation's #1 shot blocker is tough. Flash Gordon. Ben Gordon, outstanding point performer, the leading scorer of any guy that's in the Final Four. Very difficult to stop. Respect for Elder. B.J. Elder has had his problems. He's only scored 2 points in the last 3 games. He was the 5th leading scorer in the ACC. Tonight, I'm watching him in practice. He had better lift in his leg than I've seen. And of course, you've got the magic number 70. Georgia Tech 24-0 when holding teams under 70 points per game. So watch how this game unfolds. Is it going to be one of those type of games, or will Connecticut get it running?
Tonight's game brought to you in HD TV by Harris Corporation, world leader in broadcast systems for high-definition television. Dick Cartmel, Vern Harris, Randy McCall get the championship call from the officiating crew, and here we go. And look, it's going to be Boone jumping it up against Schenscher to get things started.
And will probably be the matchup, giving Okafor an opportunity to, in effect, play that great one-man zone he plays down the inside. And that is so.
Easily controlled by Schenscher, coming off a huge effort against Oklahoma State.
This is a matchup that favors Connecticut because McHenry is not going to be a threat from the outside.
Elder, and that one's short. He's had a tough go of it since that sprained ankle in the Sweet 16. Only 2 points from Elder in the last 3 games. Their leading scorer on the season.
Check this.
Firing right away. Jack coming back in to get the rebound. What did you see?
Very interesting defensive assignment. I want to see if Jack was confused or they're going to play some kind of a scramble defense and not guard Talik Brown on the outside.
Here's the line.
Great hit.
And what a rejection by McHenry, they say no. He got a piece of the arm. Okafor at the other end and swiped it away from Schencher, who was trying to grab that rebound.
Let's take a look at it. Good hit ahead. McHenry gets up there. A guy that can guard 5 men on the floor. Pretty good block right there. Might have got him a little bit with the body, but that looked good to me. It puts Boone on the foul line, and as we know, this is a problem for Connecticut. He's going to the line shooting 41% on the year. And Jim, let me point out, in that game that they played earlier this year, 10 for 30 is what Connecticut was from the line.
It's like what Kansas performed last year at the championship, 12 out of 30. And 1 of 2 for Boone.
Brown picks up Jack full court. And now Okafor goes over to take Schencer.
Here's Lewis. 3-point shot. He was hitting those early against the Cowboys. UConn wanting to run things.
And Okafor getting down the court and hurt.
Gordon, nope. Okafor put back. Oh, and
over the back.
And it's Boone. Nope. Swipe back out. Okafor tips it to Gordon. It's going to be Anderson again with the 3. Yes.
You can see the tempo that Jim Calhoun wants. They're going to force tempo in this ball game.
First forward of the Huskies.
Straight man-to-man here. Boone will stay away from McHenry, being able to help out inside.
And there's a foul on Talik Brown.
Tough matchup when Jack goes into the low post for that size.
Amazingly, Georgia Tech making it here. 5 wins by a total of 23 points. The largest margin of victory was an overtime win against Kansas.
I mean, talking to Jim Calhoun after the game the other night, I really felt that the easy victories they had took away their intensity the other day in that ball game against Duke. They really never played Connecticut defense the way that he likes to see it played. Let's see what that game does to this club.
They bring in Denham Brown, sit down Talik Brown. Well, they had that early lead 2 on Duke and maybe 15-4. Maybe they got a little complacent after that, but they were in another blowout situation.
Very possible. Now, that means that Gordon is going to be the point guard in this situation with Talik sitting down. Double team. Nice move by Georgia Tech. With the primary ball handler out.
Boone was able to snag a tough one at the top of the key. You mentioned the 10 out of 30 in the first matchup, won by Georgia Tech by 16. Also only made 1 out of 10 from 3. They've already hit one already in the first minute here. And Okafor with his first points.
Obviously seeing much more comfortable. Lewis breaks.
Okafor says no. Well, they can count it. I don't know.
Well, that might even things up. Good block on the other end. Okafor really hustled down court to get a piece of this ball. The nation's top shot blocker. Yep, I think it was at the peak on the way down. Again, double teaming in Georgia Tech with the primary ball handler on the floor, taking advantage with double teams.
Jack drives in, puts up the shot wildly. Denham Brown tips. And that's going to stay Tech ball.
Interesting battle on the inside with Boone and Okafor. It's very difficult to grab clean offensive rebounds, something Georgia Tech was able to do against Oklahoma State.
Wanted to get Schencher involved somehow in the offense. Jack back over Elder. Jumper, too strong. Anderson conversion.
He is getting off the floor, though, Jim, on that jump shot. I think that he'll start making them.
Okafor, 2 defenders. Boone keeps it alive again. Anderson set up another 3.
Long rebound as Georgia Tech want to run. Solid screen, pick and roll.
Here's Elder. And soft roll, no. Off the rim.
Nothing falling, Jim, but he's getting good looks at the basket. That's 0 for 3, but those were 3 good looks, 3 nice rotations.
Gordon takes the early shot. On the possession, there's Brown on the charge. Denham Brown. Mentioned that Georgia Tech had won 5 games by a total of 23. UConn, 5 wins by 71. But the huge comeback by the Huskies against Duke. Down 8 with 3.5 to play. Went on a 12-0 spurt.
Jim, I talked about Georgia Tech 24-0 when the games are hold opponents under 70. Connecticut scores 82 a game in their wins. So something's got to give in this ball game.
Malik Brown has returned to the lineup. Schincher setting up the little hook. And tipped around. Denham Brown may have gotten away with one over the back. Huskies again pushing it up. It's Gordon looking for the jumper again. Yes.
So much more comfortable with Malik Brown into the ball game. Gordon can go to that second guard. Here's Elder. See if he'll keep his confidence up in regard to still looking for shots.
Dumping it over the top. Schincher. Oh, in and out. They're only 1 out of 9 from the floor at the start here, including a couple of close range shots. Denham Brown.
Probably not a good shot to take right there with this lead. See if Elder keeps shooting. There it is. As I said, this man averaged, he was the 5th leading scorer, averaged over 15 a game. It's great to see a guy show some confidence there, Jim. Missing the first 3, realizing his legs are back.
And with that tray, he has now outscored his performance total from the last 3 games combined. Again, that ankle improving with every day. Okafor underneath. Lost the handle. UConn ball.
Good strips on the inside. You can see that Jack will fall back in, not worried about Brown's outside shot.
Huskies establish the early dress code here in the championship game. To this point, no jackets, no ties. Huskies by 2. Back in San Antonio, the River City, the championship game. Billy Packer, your thoughts so far on the early pace?
Well, I think the pace is favoring Connecticut so far, particularly with Malik Brown back in the ball game. Offensive rebounding and a big advantage for Connecticut on the year. They average almost 10 points more rebounds than their opponents. And Georgia Tech is right about even with their opponents. So far that's working out. Here's a little zone action right now. A little matchup zone action.
Villanueva has come in with 3 seconds on the shot clock and the dunk. Boy, that'll put it away. That's an easy way to beat the shot clock.
And Gordon saw what was going on and really took advantage of it.
Muhammad in for the first time with the ball here, number 2. They've also brought in Clarence Moore, 42. His first minutes. Muhammad. Okafor had a hand on him, but Schincher in the right spot.
Well, Muhammad will take that ball to the basket, and as we know, in that first game, Muhammad was outstanding. 6 for 13, 22 points, 6 rebounds off the bench, and a great performance in New York. And you can see how far off they are of Brown. They're going to just force him to take the shots. And he's going to want to pass.
Forces the double team, finds an open Okafor, tipped around Muhammad.
And Jim Villanueva, who's in the ball game, did not play in that game in New York, and neither did Bynum. So both teams probably about equal there.
Over the top, off the Lewis 3, UConn ball.
Gordon, terrific move in there. Feels Schincher, realizes there's nobody inside that can handle Okafor. Makes the dish.
Full court pressure here applied by the Ramblin' Wreck up ahead to Malik Brown. Chases after it.
Was held by Moore, no call.
Villanueva, stutter step fake.
There's a good double team down inside. Muhammad is so strong.
And so quick with the hands. Now on the drive, ball tipped away. Muhammad was the MVP of that preseason NIT when the Jackets beat UConn 77-61 November 26th, then beat Bobby Knight's Texas Tech team in the final. Muhammad had 22 against UConn in that one.
And Jimmy reminded me, there was a good point. Mike Krzyzewski's Blue Devils did win that preseason NIT and won a national championship. It's been a long time before that had happened, so good correction there.
A reminder, you can shop from a wide selection of official NCAA championship merchandise. Click on shop CBSSportsline.com. 19 times they've had the preseason NIT. 4 times the champion went on to make it to the Final Four, and only Duke, winning it in November of 2000, won the championship in 01 over Arizona.
I believe Johnny Dawkins was part of that 86 team that won and then advanced as well. So it shows that these teams throughout the course of a long season can battle back. And in the case of Connecticut, that had to be maybe one of the low points of the year.
One more for Clarence Moore. Into the foul on Villanueva, so an 11-10 lead for Connecticut.
Schincher using his lower body legs to try to keep Okafor off that block.
Villanueva taken out. Hilton Armstrong brought in, number 11. Saw a lot of action against Duke.
Great crossover.
Gives it up too, and a hand in there by Moore that tipped it away from Okafor. Racing ahead, Moore. Oh, Okafor went after it, couldn't get there.
Interesting, Jim. Georgia Tech pushing tempo as well. And as I said, this is Connecticut's game.
Anderson open in the corner. Can't get a better look, and Moore's coming in, making some difference here, but that was last touch by Anderson. Will Bynum also seeing play now, number 11, the man who hit the winning shot on Saturday.
Well, Georgia Tech has 8 players that play about 20 minutes a game, so this team is not going to wear down. From that standpoint, the pace will not hurt them. But again, as I said, over the course of the year, Connecticut likes this pace more than Georgia Tech does.
Georgia Tech with its first lead of the championship. Elder fadeaway. Oh, softball. I thought it might go. Armstrong for the Huskies clears. Malik Brown.
That was a good play by Muhammad. He realized, hey, I'm going to stay out here on Anderson. I'm not going to help inside. And I'm not going to let him get the wide open look for 3. Well scouted.
Hooker for turnaround. Easy 2.
Shooting right over the top of Shenser. You notice, Jim, he's taking him away from the basket. Shenser not able to stay with him with quickness. And so far, they have not been able to get the ball down the low post for Shenser.
Bynum outside. Moore again. Offensive board.
All packed in there defensively right now by Connecticut.
Ahmed explosive. Frees himself. Who had a good look. Gets it back.
Nice rotation. Muhammad too late breaking to the ball.
Moore with the 3.
You see Georgia Tech taking some shots that they don't want.
Shenser from behind. Oh, they're going to say that Shenser got a hand on the 3-point attempt.
Wow.
How about that? I thought it might have been a clean one.
Looked like the second time this evening a clean block called against Georgia Tech. Paul Hewitt cannot believe it.
I was looking over at the arrow thinking it might have been a pin situation.
Let's see this. Man alive, that's all ball. Maybe it was the fact that he came down so strong on it, but he got a lot of ball on that one.
3 attempts for Ben Gordon.
The best free throw shooter on this Connecticut team. 83% gets it to fall.
Hey, Billy, we talked on Saturday about this being perhaps one of the great days any individual's had. One day in basketball, if Jim Calhoun goes into the Hall of Fame on Monday morning and then wins the championship Monday night, he did not get elected today as the 2004 class was announced here.
He will be in there someday.
No question. I'm very surprised he didn't make it.
I was as well. Wholesale substitution. Shenser goes out, and that gives Okafor a chance to take a little bit of rest right here in no foul difficulty whatsoever. And let's point out that these officials seem to be on top of this game, and they're letting the players play early on.
And a timeout on the floor, under 12 minutes to go first half. Okafor with 6 points, 4 rebounds. Huskies have the lead at 16-12. Paul Hewitt's 4th season at Georgia Tech. He had never won a tournament game until this year when he held off Northern Iowa in the first round. And believe me, they could have gone out right at the start of this one. Withstood a 3-point shot at the buzzer.
Absolutely. Won that game 65-60. Paul Hewitt getting to the Final Four in his 4th year at Georgia Tech. It took Jim Calhoun 13 seasons to get there from Connecticut.
Pass, they're trying to go into Tarver, who just came in the game way too high. On the run, the Huskies, and Boone. Yes, the freshman scores.
Really, the big men running the floor. And again, Jim, I should point out, Georgia Tech is allowing this game to be played at Connecticut's speed. Not a good sign for Georgia Tech.
And you say even trying to push it at their end as well as Lewis, front of the rim.
Good blocking out.
And again, it's Boone.
See, this game is the way Connecticut wants to play. Moving it up and down the floor, hitting from the outside. When you set this kind of tempo, you're playing right in their hands, even if you're successful early.
Georgia Tech had taken his first lead at 12-11, now 10 unanswered for UConn. Elder, but going away, but defending.
Long rebound, and Connecticut has done a much better job on the short rebounds because they're packing in nicely.
And it's Marvin Lewis scoring inside, and Jim Calhoun says, I want to talk about that.
I think it's a timeout by Paul Hewitt, who was really hot at the officiating.
Jim Nance, Billy Packer, Bonnie Bernstein. UConn trying to give the Big East a second straight championship. Syracuse last year. The only time the Big East won back-to-back years was Georgetown and Villanova back in '84-'85. And Hewitt was, I saw first signal UConn bench, it was Hewitt who wanted the timeout. He was furious.
It was all about talking to the officials, too. He's very upset. And I think what he's upset about is the way that there's action on missed shots underneath the basket.
Again, Okafor not on the floor as they come out of the break, but he is checking in. Two-point jumper, Gordon short, and Jack jumps in for the board. Up ahead quickly, here's Lewis. And the captain looks inside, whips it into Schencher, and there is Villanueva. No defense on that one.
Right, there's the difference between having Okafor down in the ball game, guarding Schencher, than having Villanueva. Schencher goes right over the top of him, an easy score. Look at how far they're laying off Talik Brown. He's going to have to get closer to Jack when he starts the offense. See, he's so far out, he's a no factor. He ought to dribble closer to Jack and then make the play.
Gordon again. Wow, bangs that home for a three.
Gordon getting excellent looks from the outside.
He has 12 points. Jack on the run, Schencher, and that's Boone on the reach-in.
Jim, something really interesting in regard to Connecticut from three-point shooting. They shoot 41% from three. Georgia Tech guards three-point shooters at the rate of 29%. So again, something has to give in that statistical matchup.
Okafor back on the floor. And nothing like they're really going for a Mecca on Saturday against Duke when 3 minutes, 55 seconds into the semifinal. He had to sit for the rest of the half.
He was a spectator and didn't even have a pass. But Jim, you look up at that score right now, 24 points right at the 10-minute mark. That means you're looking at a score in the 80s. That's right on Connecticut's mark.
Schencher, they double him up and they strip it away.
Boone and Okafor getting out on the run, really running the court well for big men.
4 out of 10 from three. That's again 1 out of 10 in the first matchup this year, the game won by Georgia Tech. Way out of that pace also.
For a little high-low action, Boone and Okafor.
Couldn't resist. They've been baiting him, and Talik goes ahead and buries the jumper.
Georgia Tech right now has to be extremely patient. Down by 10.
With pass
And a break.
No great numbers, but Talik's going to make something happen. Yes! Got the little scoop shot to go, +1.
Do you remember the name Ricky Moore?
I do.
How about that? It looked exactly the way Moore played against Duke. Good crossover dribble, hard-nosed leader, all-time assist man at Connecticut. Assists himself on a fine play.
Ricky Morrow had that huge first half against Duke in the championship game in '99. Talik Brown had scored on a jumper on the previous trip, this time on the drive, and a free throw attempt on the way.
Jim, when you look at Talik Brown on the year, has taken 5 3-point shots. You know he's not a good free throw shooter either, but he can take that ball, as I said, take the ball on the dribble.
Oh, and the tip in by Schencher.
And the reason Schencher had it, Okafor was trying to come for the block.
Oklahoma State's here tonight. The Cowboys are watching, and they're wondering why Bynum's drive just like that on Saturday didn't fall on Saturday, or did fall Saturday and didn't fall tonight.
Okafor getting good low post position. Didn't realize Bynum was behind him.
How about that play by Bynum? Coming over to help. Near the conclusion of every tournament game, Chevrolet selects the most valuable player of the game from each team. Today, Chevrolet contributing more than $8 million to the general scholarship funds of America's colleges and universities.
Jim, with Bynum playing the point guard position, he likes to push the ball and get in a running game. Jack is the guy that can slow this team down a little bit. Bynum is going to have to think that way here in this half. Get the game played more in their style. We'll see, this is not Georgia Tech basketball.
That's
and
twice.
It's costing them.
Twice, Billy, they tried to go over the top and commit the turnover.
Schencher, of course, with his size, can create a good passing angle, but that's not their game. Gordon's pretty quick for Muhammad.
Lost the handle, but right into the hands of Okafor. Dish pass. Boone. McHenry got a hand on it. 15 on the shot clock.
Nice pullback dribble by Gordon. realizing Muhammad could handle him on the inside.
Okafor tries to go back inside. 5 on the shot clock. It's Denham Brown. Gets the fake, and Elder runs right into him with 2 on the shot clock.
Now, Denham Brown probably, Jim, should have thrown that ball towards the basket when he realized contact was going to take place. He'd have been on the line for 3.
Tech shooting only 28%. Calhoun's Huskies lead by 10 in the first half. The margin right now is 10 and had been 12. And Billy, Georgia Tech has not come back from a deficit larger than 11 the whole season. In this pace, you say, is the difference right now, all favoring UConn.
Absolutely, Jim. When you're playing a team like UConn, you want them to play your game, not their game. And so far, right off the bat, Connecticut got Georgia Tech to play their game. Even though Georgia Tech was somewhat successful the first couple of minutes, I thought the die was cast. Now it's going to be up to Georgia Tech to change this around a little bit. But back in a little matchup zone now.
Denham Brown hollering for it. Gets the shot he wanted.
Boom, another great rebound.
Boy, this freshman is something else. They all tell you around UConn that Jim Calhoun trusts him like he's not a freshman. And the offensive board and basket, it's back to 12.
You know, against tough rebounding teams, Pitt had 13. Notre Dame, he had 16 rebounds. Was sensational against Duke with a 14 rebound game. And now he's starting to not only rebound, but put them back in there.
Muhammad spinning.
And you can see what's happening right now. Georgia Tech not running their offense, trying to get it back quickly. That's not their game.
Plus that wild shot, definitely influenced by the presence of Emeka at the other end. Yes.
Paul Hewitt cannot worry about wasting timeouts. If his team does not get in the semblance of a half-court offense, he's going to have to keep calling them to get his team thinking. What you have to do now, you try to take over a game and get back too quickly if you're Georgia Tech. This is an extremely young team. Again, bad shot.
But he got it to go.
He made it, but it was not the kind of shot that you're going to win with.
B.J. Elder having some input here tonight on the offensive end, which we haven't seen here the last 2 weeks. Gordon there in time.
Oh, he got fouled, no call.
He was off balance, too, when he shot it.
Yeah,
had a little acting as well.
Yeah, there was body contact, though.
Bynum kick out. Muhammad again. Shincher, and boom, commits that one. That'll be his second.
Pretty good foul because it stopped an easy 2.
Thursday, the most difficult challenge in Survivor history, they tell us, will leave you breathless. Only one person will win immunity. Don't miss a new Survivor Thursday, 8/7 Central here on America's most watched network. Survivor All-Stars.
Gensler, 19 points, 12 rebounds against Oklahoma State. Jim, the thing that's amazing about this young man, he has had 16 games this year where he's played 30 minutes or more. When you take in consideration where he was at this time a year ago as a player, the last 7 games he played a total of 20 minutes and only scored 2 points. He devoted himself last summer to get himself ready to play, and it has certainly paid off. But that's kind of amazing for a man his size to play 30-minute games that consistently.
Hey, how about where he was at the start of this season? He scored only 2 points in that first matchup against UConn. And the pride of hope for us, South Australia.
Yeah, he was 1 for 5, 2 points, 3 rebounds in that game.
No factor, but the Tech side was the winner. Shincher with a bad foul at the other end.
Yeah, you've got to let Okafor handle that ball there. He had him about a step or so farther out than Okafor wanted, and there was plenty of room for a double team. Very poor foul on his part.
And with 2, they're going to take him out. They're going to bring in Theodis Tarver. For the rest of the half, you just think he'll sit. They're down 11.
Yeah, I think they will. And plus, he needed a rest right now, so probably not a bad substitution. If they get down much further, you might have to bring him back. But there's 5:45 to go. You get 2 minutes with him on the bench at least. Tarver, a young man who started the first 3 games last year before he dislocated a kneecap, so he does have some talent.
It's Okafor outside. Garrett Jack comes busting out. Has 2 Huskies. Takes middle. And Gordon has the 2-on-1. What will they do? Send him to the line. Bynum on the hack.
Boy, Jack had Elder out on the side and tried to make a play down inside. He's got to realize Okafor is going to eliminate that kind of play.
Okafor in the first half versus Duke, 4 minutes. When we attempted a shot. Second half, of course, he did it all. 18 points in the second half, leading him to the win. And Ben Gordon to shoot 2.
pulled the string. That's the second time that Gordon has got one to hit the front rim and go down in there. But the guy has got a great release. And as I said, by far and away, Connecticut's best free throw shooter. Solid commanding lead and a solid style of play for Connecticut so far in this ball game.
Gordon with 14, and the Huskies lead it by 13.
Connecticut playing much better defense on dribble penetration than he did the other night. There's a foul on Gordon. Bynum, tough matchup for anybody, but you can see Connecticut staying in front of dribblers.
First on Gordon. And Marvin Lewis, the only player to have participated in every game Paul Hewitt has coached at Georgia Tech. All 129 games. Marvin Lewis.
Well, one of two that were recruited by Bobby Crimmins decided to stay with that decision to go to Georgia Tech. And an outstanding student there as well as player.
Bynum again on the drive, and that looks familiar.
Replay.
Yep.
Replay drive on the inside. Now Bynum now starting to break down that dribble.
Double team on Okafor, and he is going right to that line. Okafor tonight in that matchup in the middle, Billy. What are you seeing here?
Well, he is too quick for Schenzer. He's doing a fine job, and Connecticut's doing a great job getting him the ball. About the only times he hadn't been successful was when somebody came from the backside, as Bynum did a few possessions ago, to steal it. Other than that, he has been terrific in the low post, exactly what we expected. Mr. Perfect.
And that foul on Tarver. One more coming for Emeka Okafor. Raised about 3 hours away, right down I-10 over in Houston. In fact, the city of Houston has produced his parents, the Okafors. The last two centers for UConn have come out of that city. Jake Bosco started for the '99 championship team out of the Houston area. Now Okafor.
Here's Jack again, pushing the ball with no place to go.
Bynum, and that's going on Gordon. Two quick ones on Gordon.
And this is exactly what Duke was able to do to Connecticut, beating Gordon with dribble penetration.
Wednesday, if you get tired of hanging out with your wife's friends, you won't believe the plan the King of Queens has for clearing them all out. It's a new episode Wednesday at 9, 8 Central on CBS, America's most watched network. Kevin James, Wednesday night. Bynum. This will be a 1-on-1.
Without Bynum, obviously Georgia Tech would not be here. The twisting layup against Nevada, then that three against Kansas, and then of course that drive against Oklahoma State. Big plays.
In fact, their last 3 wins, the winning basket, or the basket to put them in front for good, all delivered by Will Bynum. Dennis Brown, nice move. Watch, they converge, and Moore comes out with it.
That was Tarver that got a piece of that ball after a nice move by Brown. It's like Bynum thinks he can take anybody that's put in front of him. Malik Brown now picks him up.
Yeah, he wants it, and he gets it from 3.
How about the man from transfer from Chicago to Arizona and now to Georgia Tech coming up big.
Most confident looking player on the Georgia Tech side of this half.
Backs off Malik Brown again. Lewis doing a good job beating Anderson to the spot.
Tough pass,
nice.
tipped around.
Tarver and another big play inside defensively.
Look at Bynum again, wanting more, and a reach in on Denham Brown.
Interesting to see Georgia Tech pushing that ball and getting back in the ball game here. Without Schenzer in the game, without Muhammad in the game, without Elder in the game, without McHenry in the game. So it shows how valuable this bench has been.
Ishmael Muhammad will come back in for Georgia Tech, replacing Marvin Lewis. Will Bynum. And there he is, Muhammad. Gives you also a lot on the defensive end. Can explode for points. UConn counters with a lockdown man, and that is Shimon Tools.
Yeah, what I think you're seeing Jim Calhoun do there is that I'm tired of dribble penetration. I'm going to get somebody out here. It might not be a scorer, but it can stop this penetration on the inside. Denham Brown having all kinds of problems there. Another miss.
2 front ends, a 1-and-1, and Muhammad had a foot on the line. Georgia Tech's bench has outscored Connecticut's 8-0. But the Huskies still have the lead in double digits. 3 minutes in the first half.
And when you've got a great twosome like this, maybe the best twosome on any team in college basketball, Gordon and Okafor. Now watch this. A great solid screen. You've got to go ahead and stay with Gordon. And then watch how Okafor pivots back so that he can see the ball at all times, gets excellent position, and then delivers. As good a two-man action as you can have.
And his inside game is going to be reinforced here with the presence of Charlie Villanueva, the freshman. UConn has gone over 3.5 minutes without a field goal. And more aggressively going after it, but charged with that one. It'll be a 1-on-1.
Good aggressive defensive action, and almost was a steal that would have led to an automatic fast break. Puts Brown on the foul line, and again we get back to that woeful free throw shooting. A 54% free throw shooter is Talik Brown.
But this team tonight, also woeful on the season. At 61% is, well, 8 of 11 with that miss.
Where is Jarrett Jack going? He's wanting to push that ball down inside a little bit too early because Okafor does a great job getting back on defense. This is a little bit more the pace that Georgia Tech would like to stay in.
Gets it back. 10 on the shot clock. Needing some help. Georgia Tech fans under the basket getting the countdown. Jack fires it, and big board there by Okafor.
Again, though, Jim, see how if you're going to use some of that clock on one end of the court, you take away that helter-skelter game that Connecticut plays so well.
Tough pass, really tough.
Not a good
pass. There. Nope. It's Jack driving. Villanueva with a hand in there, and Georgia Tech ball. Coming up singular at the half. Join Greg Gumbel and Clark Kellogg and Seth Davis. First half analysis, plus Dick Enberg will have an essay on the big impact that little men have had on this NCAA tournament. Also, the singular greatest championship game poll. And a reminder, you can still vote. All coming up singular at the half.
Jim, always a sign of good coaching, and Connecticut's doing this very well, is getting from offense back onto defense, taking away those easy baskets. Jack has not made good decisions tonight when he's got a break or a semi-break.
Bynum after rim, and Armstrong travel.
Yep, steps. He tried to get the timeout, but what happened was he couldn't find an official to see him. And Jim Calhoun screaming a little bit.
Reach in, Anderson, tie up, arrow, UConn.
Elder so anxious to get some kind of a score. Anderson doing a good job staying right close to it.
Isn't it amazing, Billy, that UConn beating Duke on Saturday, that the league, the Big East, is now 8-0 all time in Big East in NCAA semifinal action when they're playing anyone outside of the Big East in the Final Four, in the semifinal round. Never lost.
Well, they've sent some very nice teams to the Final Four. You go back to the Georgetown days. There's a push-off, gets by with it. Tarver doing everything he can, but Okafor's awful strong in there.
They had no scoring for over 2 minutes, and Muhammad on the reach. But again, that'll just be a 1-on-1 for Talik Brown, who struggles. Ben Gordon leading the way in scoring here.
Beautiful outside jump shot, knows how to pull up. He has been out of this game for a while now, and that was probably part of the reason for the drought, where Connecticut was off to a real nice run.
Saw that three there. He became UConn's all-time three-point marksman, 243 on the career.
Passing Chris Smith.
Yep, just did that on Saturday. Tools is coming back. Calhoun liked what he saw out of Tools, so Denham Brown sits. Tools really helps him at the other end. He is a senior out of Coatesville, Pennsylvania, hometown of Richard Hamilton. He had such the big role in the championship of '99. Look at Brown.
Hits 2 in a row. Very important right now. 12 points down to Georgia Tech to get good looks. Connecticut has taken away the easy baskets.
Zelder, one-hander, tipped up around the rim and pulled down by Armstrong.
You know, Armstrong not getting enough credit for a guy given valuable minutes off that bench, providing that size, making it very difficult to get any offensive rebounds.
Thought he had an important role against the Blue Devils on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Brown on the drive, under a minute to play. Another scoop shot, too strong this time. Last touch by Moore. UConn ball.
And you know, it's keeping everybody fresh. You got Josh Boone sitting there on the sidelines, not picking up any fouls, staying fresh. So Armstrong giving some valuable minutes.
Denham Brown comes back. UConn's last field goal came at the 6:44 mark. He was up by 14 as Armstrong side of the backboard this time.
That's Okafor on the reach. Strong rebound by Moore.
Tuesday, a Navy SEAL is wanted for killing his wife. Now NCIS is on the hunt for a fugitive. Mark Harmon stars in a new NCIS. Tuesday, 8/7 Central on America's most watched network, CBS. How about that, Billy? Testament really to UConn hitting 10 out of 13 from the free throw line in this half. No field goal for 6 minutes on the game clock, and the lead has only been trimmed by 2. It was 14 at that point when they made a goal. Still 12.
And it's Georgia Tech having problems hitting any free throws. They've got to get themselves inched back into this ball game to make it a game, because you know that Jim Calhoun has been able to keep everybody fresh in the sidelines. Another tap back, that time by Okafor.
Look at that pass. Armstrong goes up, and he'll go to the line.
And just total dominance on the offensive end of the court with rebounding by Connecticut. They either tapping it back out or just power inside. There's the ball going up. There's the tap back by Okafor. Probably pushed off a little bit. And there's a great touch pass on the inside.
That was by Talik Brown. Hilton Armstrong at the line to shoot 2.
Talik Brown this year, over 210 assists. Just a little over 100 turnovers. Great turnover assist ratio to the senior.
Beautiful stroke there by Armstrong, who only all season long, well, he did get to the line all that many times. This is a rarity. Can he hit them both?
Nope.
Well, you talked about Georgia Tech struggles at the line in this game. 4 out of 9 at the Yellow Jackets in. And they'll hold it here likely for the last possession, down 13.
Great job defensively, particularly on the defensive boards by Connecticut in this first half.
7 seconds to go. Bynum driving again.
That's Okafor. Hit him with the chest. You know, Okafor so great at blocking shots. It shows you how adept Bynum is at using his body. Now watch him. He goes in and then away. Okafor straight up, but there's the foul on Okafor.
His second picked up with 5 seconds to go in the half. So 2 shots for Bynum.
This is amazing, even with the good shooters on the line. Georgia Tech can't slice into this lead because they're not hitting anything from free throw line.
4 out of 10. And Bynum's 0 for 3.
5 seconds on the clock. Jim Calhoun is going with Gordon, taking Denham Brown out. Now, Gordon is the kind of guy with Talik Brown that in 5 seconds can motor that ball up the court and look for that outside jump shot. Very important here for Georgia Tech. If this foul shot's made, do a good job guarding the man making the inbounds pass. Don't make it anyway.
Can't do it. It's Anderson. Plenty of time. 2 seconds. Step back 3. Yes! It's a UConn half.
Absolutely Tarver right with him. Missed free throws by Georgia Tech. Really hard.
They may review this one. In fact, they are. They're heading over to the monitors right now. Is it a 2 or is it a 3?
In any case, it's going to be points.
And in any case, it's going to be Georgia Tech's largest deficit at halftime all season long.
I believe his foot was over the line, Jim. But a good job by Connecticut to recognize the time. Anderson looked up at the clock and hit the shot.
They're going to count it. They're going to count it as a 2. So there you go. 41-26 is the halftime score. Let's go to Bonnie Bernstein.
Jim Calhoun, how important has it been that your club got off to a quick tempo?
Very, very important because we got caught by Duke and then got down and kind of played from behind the whole time. So really important for us to run the basketball. And the second thing we did early, we really rebounded the basketball.
You got a 15-point lead. Your team's 20 minutes away from a national championship. What do you say to them in the locker room?
We're 20 minutes away from a victory. And so right now, we just got to play 20 good minutes of defensive basketball.
Coach, thanks.
Thank you, Bonnie. 41-26, Connecticut at halftime. Greg Gumbel and company coming up next.
CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the men's national championship game is sponsored by Miller, DiGiorno, the Hartford Mutual Funds, and by Mazda.
Consistently bringing the fight. No matter what, you couldn't hide them. They made the big dance. And the unanimous guard of honor, player of the year, Jameer Nelson at 5'11", creating, delivering for a little school.
And drills it, a little guy line from the little guy.
No need to take St. Joe's Elite 8 and sitting down. Nelson stood tall for what this entire season was all about. 2004 was the year little meant big time. We're an hour away from saluting the 2004 champions. So let's hear it for all the little men that played it big. To make little of their contribution would be small-minded. They transformed this year's March Madness into March Gladness. Even for the big guys. So if the final 20 minutes follow form, we should expect a memorable backcourt effort from Connecticut's Talik Brown, Ben Gordon, or Georgia Tech. Watch out for Juracek or Will Bynum. Sorry, Clark. I'm still rooting for the little men.
Understandably so.
Dick, that's a good little story. Thank you.
Finally a friend up here. Thank you.
All right, let's talk about the second half. In the first meeting between these teams, it was Georgia Tech shooting better than 70% from the free throw line and Connecticut shooting 33%. A lot of role reversal, but I have to think Paul Hewitt feels those shots are going to start to fall.
Well, they've got to make the good shots that they get, Greg. They're not getting many good looks, and they're not getting a lot of second shots. It's going to take a perfect second half for Georgia Tech to have a chance against the best team in the country.
You know, Luke Schencher could run rough shot on Saturday night. He's not going to do that tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see Paul Hewitt go small, try to speed up the game, and get into an up-and-down contest, do it that way.
All right, so far in this tournament, Georgia Tech has only trailed at halftime once, and they came back to win that game. They trail it here by 15. Thank you for watching Singular at the Half. Who's going to cut down the nets here tonight, Georgia Tech or UConn? Jim and Billy are back with the second half of the national championship game after this.
CBS Sports presents Singular at the Half, sponsored by Singular Wireless, the wireless company that fits you best.
A UConn lead of 15 as we check the Packer points, and I turn it over to Mr. Perfect. Oh, no, that's Mr. Perfect. You say is Okafor, Billy.
Yeah, I've made some mistakes this evening, but this is not one of them. Okafor tonight, 10. He's got 7 rebounds, has been outstanding, doing everything. And Flash Gordon has been Flash Gordon. 14 points, very efficient on the offensive end. All positive for Connecticut. Respect for Elder, and here's where the negatives start. Elder tonight, 5 points, more like what he's been in the postseason than what he was in the regular season. But this is the key right here. Tempo. Georgia Tech 24-0 when they hold opponents under 70. Connecticut has 41 points. Jim, they have 82 points in what they average in their wins. It's all going Connecticut's way.
Wow, how about that? 5th time in 6 tournament games. UConn with a double-digit lead at halftime. Second half coming up next.
CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the men's national championship game is sponsored by Putnam Investments, Microsoft, Bud Light, and by Pontiac.
Ben Gordon's 14 leading the way for UConn. That shot right at the end of the first half was the first basket for the Huskies in almost 7 minutes. And in that span, they went from a 14-point lead to a 15-point lead.
And they did it, Jim, with great defensive rebounding. And they kept Georgia Tech out of their half-court sets. Let's see if Paul Hewitt can get his team to play their game as opposed to Connecticut's game. Nice turnaround jumper, nothing there.
A liner, but McHenry has his knocked away.
They're not going to get that jump shot off with Okafor standing there ready to make a play. You got to kick it out, start your offense over again. He is the eliminator in that paint.
Anderson giving it inside. Okafor to the line for two. Let's go over to Bonnie.
Well, Jim, Georgia Tech shot 29% in the first half. Paul Hewitt saying not only was our offense not sharp, but all of those ill-timed shots resulted in easy run-out baskets for Connecticut. Wanted that to be better in the second half. Also better on the free throw line. So we got 20 minutes to turn this thing around, and I think we can do it.
Well, this amazing young man, consensus, in fact, unanimous AP All-America with Jameer Nelson. Those two, the two national players of the year. Nelson winning many of the awards, but Okafor graduating in 3 years. He's just done it all, and he's done it with dignity and class. And they're accustomed around these parts in San Antonio seeing a guy wearing number 50, winning and doing it right. The old Navy man, David Robinson, showed him the way down here.
Right, who they all got to meet. Georgia Tech got to meet when they went and visited David's school, where he has been such a great benefactor here. Great gentleman, great athlete, and great man for basketball.
And the other number 50, not able to cash in inside. What do you see with Georgia Tech trying to come back?
I think they ought to get the ball in Jack's hands and try to run their offensive set. Slow the game down and gradually work back in. They had a terrific chance, Jim, as you pointed out so well, that Connecticut didn't burn it up at the end of that first half, but they were able to extend their lead. Low post by Jack.
Turns it over. Knocks it out of bounds. Steps out.
Jack having a nightmare of a game after he has played so well in this tournament. A great game, of course, against Kansas. We had 29 points and 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, but not getting it done tonight.
Brown quickly down, and Okafor, yes, this time. And the largest lead of the game is at 17.
Elder trying to get away. Anderson doing a nice job on him in this ball game, staying right in front of him, taking away that jump shot.
Lewis in the paint, floater, gets the soft roll.
Gordon didn't beat him to the spot. One of the few breakdowns by Connecticut.
Georgia Tech had missed its last 6 shots before that one. You just get the feeling, you just never know here, but you could get ugly. I mean, UConn has had these blowout wins all turn out wrong except for Duke. And look at Gordon with that effort.
That's a double clutch, and he can do that as well as any guard in college basketball, whether he shoots the shot or double clutches to make the passes we've seen before.
Okafor trying to defend Schincher. Back to the rim, tip out to Elder. He'll challenge the big man. One more time. Oh, and that'll be the third on Emeka.
And Jim Calhoun is screaming, saying you prejudged the foul.
Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. I think that a good job that time by Elder trying to go ahead and get that ball back up using his body. He's got a lot of strength. Okafor got him down below.
They called that on Boone.
Oh, they did?
They called it on Boone on a reach. How about that? So that's the third on Boone. And Okafor stays with 2.
I think that Jim Calhoun was arguing that he thought it was Okafor on the call, as did I.
Well, we're double checking it on the other side, and that's the word we're getting.
Well, it would be 3 on either one, right?
It would be. Third on Boone.
Good hit ahead.
Look at the no-look pass to Anderson. Talik Brown, the all-time assist man. At UConn with one of his better ones.
And how about this? Here is where the mental game is breaking down for Georgia Tech. Step inbounds on the inbounds pass, turns it over. And you can see how efficient Connecticut is as opposed to Georgia Tech in this wide open game. Started almost in the first minute that it was Connecticut's style Not Georgia Tech.
Mecca draws that one on Shenshire.
Khalif Brown, as the senior, Jim, is starting to really sense what to do against Georgia Tech.
The battle in the post. Some have said the best big man battle at a championship game since Ewing and Olajuwon. Is it decisive on one side here tonight?
I wouldn't even attempt to go there when you're talking about Olajuwon and Ewing as seniors compared to these fellas. Not even close.
But people do say we haven't had a matchup in the championship game, which is true, that you had two pivot players. Well, of note like this.
No, I think that's good. Pivot players. But, you know, I think to compare in terms of the upper end quality there and the experience, it would really be a long, long reach. Not even worth being in the same breath.
Yeah, I was asking how big of an edge, though, is it so far for Okafor here? Not to compare 20 years ago, but tonight, how would you compare their matchup inside?
No, I think that Okafor is far superior than Shenshire at this point in his career.
Again, look at that right there.
Example, that's on the second grab. Georgia Tech in very serious trouble right now.
21.
And they're trying to get it all back at once. Tough to do.
Timeout, Paul Hewitt.
He understands where his team is. Tries to slow it down.
Muhammad mowed down the defender. Got the basket. 50-31. UConn to inbound, leading 50-31. And Bynum almost makes the steal. In fact, they say it was touched last by Ben Gordon. He does force it, so it'll be Georgia Tech ball.
This is a nice move. Coach Hewitt trying to do anything he can to change this game. And now let's see whether they change the call the other way and reverse it.
To listen to the crowd responding.
Paul Hewitt sits down and can't believe what's happening to his team right now. But this is a young basketball team who got caught up in a running game, which they could not adjust to or play as well as Connecticut can.
Last touch by McHenry. I go back to Selection Sunday, and I asked during the Big Ten championship game, I asked you, what team do you believe is going to be the toughest to beat in the NCAA tournament? And knowing full well UConn would not be on the one line later that day. And you said Connecticut. So Connecticut is the best team. Will not be rated as a 1 seed, but will be the team to beat.
Well, Jim, we saw a perfect example of that in the Duke game. I felt that Connecticut was the one team that could have things go wrong and still be able to survive, which is the object of this tournament. Survive and advance, as Jim Valvano once said. And we saw that perfectly in what they were able to do against Duke. Not many teams in this tournament, if any, other than Connecticut, were able to do that.
That's Muhammad pinned underneath. And Anderson. Oh, hold on a minute.
Is that going to be a foul on a push?
It is on Muhammad.
It is.
Muhammad of Georgia Tech.
Shot goes up, nothing there. Everybody aware of Okafor on the inside. And there was the call.
Yeah, a little body move there. There was contact.
Now, Jim, what's also difficult right here is when you try to press Connecticut, that spreads them out on the floor, which they do really well. And if Brown beats you with a dribble, that's going to leave somebody open for the shot.
Anderson, two-point shot.
Nice pull-up. Lewis was playing him for the straightaway jumper. He made that little dribble move and got open.
McHenry.
Again, Okafor altered the shot. Not the block, but the alter.
Every shot influenced. And taken out of his arms this time. Muhammad, and Okafor takes it right out of there with the swat.
He is playing a one-man fly swatter team down there. What he doesn't alter, he blocks. And Georgia Tech getting even more frustrated.
It got him officially down for 2 blocks. There's no telling how many shots he's influenced. Gordon, and that's going to be Georgia Tech ball. I want to show you something that's very impressive. Head coach Eddie Sutton, his wife Patsy, eliminated here by Georgia Tech on Saturday, decided to stay and keep his team in town and bring them to the championship game. You just don't see that anymore. Since they eliminated the consolation game, most teams travel home. I guess this team, most of which is coming back, get a little look at what it's like to play on a championship floor.
Yep, people forget that up to 1981, there was always a consolation game for 3rd or 4th place. That has been eliminated. And nothing working for Georgia Tech.
And a reach in here by Marvin Lewis.
And it's not a lack of effort, Jim. What it was is the fact that their players got in a running game early and played right into Connecticut's hands. And now the more experienced team, particularly with Talik Brown and Gordon being able to orchestrate this offense against the press, is having their way.
UConn operating 21-point lead. First 5 on the floor. Led by Ben Gordon so far tonight, point-wise, but Okafor's presence so large.
And I like the efficiency of Connecticut right now. They're making Georgia Tech make mistakes, and there is another one. This really takes experience, and Talik Brown has it out there. Instead of trying to go ahead and expand the lead, make Georgia Tech make defensive mistakes and just keep building solidly on the lead.
It's the 5th team foul, the second on Bynum. Gordon, boy, he had it carried like a football player for just a second there. Had it tucked away, and Gordon putting on quite a show.
Schenzer not having that ability to be just too big inside. There's Okafor playing right behind him, and here's the hit ahead.
Okafor got stuck. Tipped up by Boone. The freshman who has incredible presence on the floor of where everything is.
Yeah, Jim, how about the 2 biggest guys for Connecticut being the 2 guys down the floor before anybody else? Just great speed, great hustle. Okafor just kept it alive up there on the boards, and here comes Boone right behind him. Terrific soft touch. Young man who really is as big a reason as anybody that Connecticut was able to get through that Duke game when Okafor had to sit down for 16 minutes in that first half.
It's the 3rd foul at the defensive end for UConn on Talik Brown, who was taken out. Then Brown back in. That's traveling on McHenry.
And the game has gotten completely out of control for Georgia Tech.
Thursday, when the crime scene is a construction site and the murder weapon is a hammer, how will CSI track down the killer? Don't miss TV's most watched drama, CSI, Thursday at 9, 8 Central on CBS, America's most watched network. Georgia Tech 4 turnovers in the half, and only 2 made baskets, 12 attempts. And there's
that was a kick.
Yeah, Muhammad will give you one go here. You knew that was coming.
But that was an illegal play. He kicked it with his foot and got by with it.
Some say the most electrifying dunker in college basketball, and they're going to say that's on Muhammad this time. Yeah, and Gordon's pointing out. He says, hey,
ref, he kicked the ball. That's how he stole it from me the first time. And you can see Muhammad is very aggressive defensively, extremely strong. As we pointed out in that preseason NIT championship that Georgia Tech had, beating Connecticut and Texas Tech, Muhammad was outstanding. But a different day today.
Gordon jumper. He knows he's got Okafor there to retrieve, and he misses. And he puts it up with the left hand. 58-33. Bynum, dipsy-do and no-do by Muhammad with the putback
and
to Tech.
Muhammad looks like that knee is giving him some trouble again. Remember, on Saturday it caused him trouble. Jack coming in for him. This young man's a worker.
Gordon, that move he made just a moment ago, doesn't drop this time.
Foul over the back.
So Denham Brown. Get the official champions locker room gear, including the same cap and shirt worn by the players during the post-game celebration. All you have to do is go to NCAAsports.com. Denham Brown's third, and Talik Brown will come back on the floor.
Jim, I think of looking over at Jim Calhoun. He said when he first started Connecticut, he told guys he recruited, hey, why don't you come here and you can play against really good players? And now he recruits and says, hey, come to Connecticut and you can play with really good players. Complete different approach, isn't it? And he does have some good players. Well coached. Excellent position to win his 2nd national championship.
Elder.
And here they come.
Think about where the program was before Calhoun's arrival in May of 1986. Okafor now with that rebound, a double-double here in the finals. 17 points, 10 rebounds. Doubled up, good pass.
Nice. And down on the weak side, Jared Jack didn't have inside position. The 2 big men working perfectly.
statement performance we're seeing right here by the Huskies. Jack gets the touch.
Now, this has been a brilliant NCAA tournament, but the final game is not going to be indicative in any way, shape, or form of how Georgia Tech played, and for that matter, how the tournament's been played. Total dominance by Connecticut.
Brown, Boone, and he'll go to the line. That basket by Jared Jack, the other end of the floor, was his first field goal tonight. Now Josh Boone, number 21. You mentioned Ricky Moore years ago. That was a jersey worn by Moore, who had such an influence on their championship.
Jim, you remember last weekend when we saw the outstanding freshman Chris Paul go up against the experienced players at St. Joe's, and the game kind of got away from him. That's what happened to Jack tonight.
And there's Josh Boone's mother, Rosalie. For the second one to drop. Well, both go awry this time.
Bynum gets the rebound. Smallest man on the floor right now. This Georgia Tech team beat Duke at Duke to snap a 41-game streak, beat Wake Forest, snapped a 24-game streak. So they certainly have proven to be capable. But tonight they faced a more experienced, polished team and got playing in their running game.
And ran into a buzzsaw here. They've won 9 of their last 10. Tech coming into this, not included a win that win you mentioned at Duke. It's going to be a UConn turnover. 60-39 Huskies.
There's glory for the end.
Pat Calhoun looking on here. Her husband's team leading by 21 in this championship game. Never threatened in this second half.
Jim, after that game with Duke the other day, she was down on the floor to give Jim a big hug. She never anticipated, I'm sure with a few minutes to go in that one, that she would be sitting here watching this championship game with the team totally dominating.
Hilton Armstrong on the arm. What a combo it is. You knew it all season. Ben Gordon and Mecca Okafor, the outside, the inside presence of these two.
Jim, let's talk about something. In regard to coming into this game, Georgia Tech has held the #1 scorer to 28% field goal shooting percentage and have held them 6 points per game under their average. So they have done a tremendous job. The last one being Tony Allen, that they held to 3 for 5, 13 points the other day. So they have been able to, until tonight, do the job. But Okafor and Gordon just too much for this team. And I would really believe, I don't think any team in the country started this season, nor will end it, with 2 players inside-outside combination anything close to Gordon and Okafor.
Really, their positions may be the best at their position. Well, Okafor clearly the best at his position, and Gordon probably too in all of college basketball.
You can make an argument the best 2 guard in college basketball without too much of an argument from many people.
Villanueva back on the floor. Gordon, baseline floater. He'll go back to the line. Bynum on the foul.
Now, Bynum is a good athlete, but Gordon just elevated right over the top of him.
You know, Billy, at halftime we had the singular result. The championship game that was the most exciting of all time. And the one that came back from all the fans was the NC State-Houston game of 1983.
You can't get away from that game.
There is Clyde Drexler, who went into the Hall of Fame today. And we were there to announce the class, and of course you had to do what I was hoping you would do. You brought up that game.
No, you're the guy that
you brought up the game.
You called the first game that he ever played.
I was the public address announcer in Houston when we were in school together. But do you know the day that game was April 4th, 1983. Talk about a player maybe was in the stars to be on a championship team, play on this stage. Ben Gordon was born that night that NC State played Houston, April the 4th, 1983. Reached the midway point here of the second half. There's Elder from the outside, and it's Talik Brown coming in.
Never there, even though tonight I think his ankle is better. Oh, great steal, and that would have been another easy one.
Well, Okafor was looking over Villanueva's way. Underneath, it's Moore.
Okafor back, nobody with him. Tarver recognizes and gets back down court. But here's the game that Connecticut loves to play.
Look at that fake.
This is the game they love to play.
Look at that. That was Okafor.
How about that was a smart play by Okafor? And what would you expect from an outstanding student? Instead of trying to get an off-balance tap at the rim, he kept it back out there alive so they can attack again. Jim Calhoun said that first half against Alabama was the best half that Connecticut has played all year. I'd have to say that this has got to be as good an all-around game as they've played all year.
Look at the hustle still with this lead by Okafor. On the floor. Leading by 19. Scraping for every loose ball.
He's a true champion, that young man. He was so excited the other day after that game, that post game. I mean, he couldn't even breathe. He was so excited.
Having a hard time.
He really was.
3 or 4 minutes. And on the drive, that looked like it was going down, but not this time for Talik. Muhammad banks it in.
He didn't call that bank, do you think?
No, I didn't hear it. And they've quieted the crowd here enough to be able to.
Well, this game has been over for quite some time.
Garrett Jack, there was a little souvenir
ball
basketball on the floor, and he tosses it back into the stands. Georgia Tech, by the way, the 10-2 stretch right here for Tech.
And Jim, another thing that's, you know, Jarrett Jack, a real student of the game. Broke down all the tapes last year in the summer of what his team did and what he did individually to make himself a sharper player. Believe me, that young man will be in the coaches' offices by Wednesday breaking this film down.
And I understand he showed you the way to the coach's offices the first time you ever met him.
Absolutely.
You got lost at Georgia Tech and you're looking for some help, and Jarrett Jack.
Yeah, he's a real student of the game, and, you know, there's other days for him.
And the arrow belongs to the Huskies. Thursday on CBS Entertainment Weekly calls Without a Trace a thrill a minute. And see why this is one show you don't want to miss. Thursday on CBS after CSI, America's Most Watched Network.
You know, it's interesting also to see the difference in this team with a totally healthy Okafor. And there's Anderson hitting everything. And Lewis just grimaced as he turned around and said, hey, you know, everything's coming up for Connecticut.
What a tournament Anderson's had. He's averaged 17 a game in the NCAA. He's almost 7 points more than his regular season average. Muhammad.
Well, Jim, all Anderson needed was playing time. And boy, once he got in that starting lineup, he became a major factor for Connecticut.
Timeout. We'll be right back. Under 8 timeout. That was the third on Gordon. A Husky performance to remember here in San Antonio.
Thousands of dollars of accessories to an otherwise so-so car. Can you say, pimp my ride? We'll show you after the big game.
UConn on its way to holding a 55th consecutive opponent to under 50% from the field. Tech only managing 1 of 3 to drop. Lewis did 5 of those in the first 12 minutes of the game of Saturday.
Jim, you can see what Jim Calhoun has told his team. I don't want any break-in. I want half-court sets. I want to use the clock here. As I said again, the object is to win the game, not necessarily even be pretty doing it. And, you know, if it continues like this, he may go back and say, guys, just play your game.
And Gordon picks up another one on the reach-in. That is his 4th. Get back to that center comparison I was asking about earlier, and just notice the second half numbers, Billy.
Yeah, Okafor completely dominating right here. Much more experience, much quicker. Tough assignment for Shencher, just as it was the other way around against Oklahoma State, where Shencher, because of his size, was able to play right over the top of Eddie Sutton's team. But that's not the case when you've got Okafor behind you and Josh Boone coming from the other side.
And then Brown for Ben Gordon. Gordon to the bench with the 4.
Now this will be kind of interesting to see how patient Jim Calhoun will be to say, let's take the air out of it a little bit, because his team has not functioned well so far doing it with this big lead. It might not make any difference, but they have not handled it well.
With a lead at one time had grown all the way to 25, and they've knocked now 9 off of that margin.
But you see Talik Brown not pushing the ball up through that press. slowing down and getting into the half-court set. Maybe it's time for Okafor to touch it.
Yep, this is a modern-day version of the four corners, if you will, with the shot clock, and McHenry with a reach-in. Brown is not, again, a good free throw shooter, and it'll be a 1-on-1 for him.
Here we see Okafor altering one shot, getting the ball off the boards, blocking a shot on the inside, going after another, altering shots, diving for loose balls and kicking it out. We called him Mr. Perfect, and Jim, he has been tonight. Oh, there's
how about that?
A banker. Now, that's the second time we've seen a bank shot that I guarantee you wasn't called.
Reminds me of when I think of Talik Brown banking home a shot against Pittsburgh in a Big East final a couple of years ago in one of his great moments.
Now, Jim, it wouldn't be pretty, but, you know, the object, if you're sitting on the other end of the bench, is to try to win the game. What would you think of using that long bench and following Talik Brown time after time after time to try to extend this game?
Do you think they intentionally did that with McHenry's foul on him?
Nice touch.
That is Schicher with the lay-in.
That's what Georgia Tech needed to be doing early in this game.
First points of the second half.
Well, let's see what happens.
Never a chance with that pass. Anderson got careless. Lewis shot. Anderson trying to tip it out. McHenry protect. Jack and Okafor says, no, get it out of here. But they're going to call it on Rashad Anderson on the block foul.
Here we see it on the inside. Never did see that foul. I thought it was a pretty good block.
It's on 31.
Yep, I never did see that. Look at those hands right there, though.
Thank you. Thank you.
Paul Hewitt pretending like that was something that he wanted to see much earlier in this ball game. And I'm anxious to watch Calhoun in this little cat and mouse right here. Down to 15, could go to 14. Is he going to try to turn it back up and tell his team to go ahead and play? The delay game has not paid off for him.
Robert Brooks comes in for Georgia Tech. 6'8" senior from Saginaw, Michigan.
Well, it is not going to be a hack-a-shack type defensive strategy, it doesn't look like. Let's see if Brown handles it, what they'll do.
Denham Brown. And good night of Mecca.
Ball might have been on the rim.
It was close. Jack with the floater.
Again, that was altered by Okafor. He realized he was there and just threw it up in the air. The all-time shot blocking record for a final game, and this might surprise you, is only 4. So Okafor at this point is not there yet, but you would assume that Georgia Tech keeps throwing up those kind of shots, he can get to it.
Yeah, he's only got 2 officially. Going to make a move here. Does. Beautiful. No finish, though. Schicher comes back for it.
Okafor's getting a little tired right now.
Yeah, he looks winded. Hooks at the far end on the line. UConn ball. Bynum's coming back, and so is Elder.
Yeah, Okafor is walking slowly for the first time in this ball game.
Was it on the front of the rim still?
I believe so. I believe he carried that ball right up on that rim and over. Probably should not have been a basket. Again, see, they're not going to foul. This surprises me. I'd go ahead and put him on the line a time or two and see if he can get the lead down even further. But Georgia Tech's trying to play straight defense on Brown, and all this does is allow the clock to go by.
4.5 remaining, 17-point comfortable margin. It has been all second half long. Little jumper, Okafor again.
Turning the other way. Jim, I really do think it would have been good strategy to foul. Just foul, foul, foul. Try to get back in the game and see what will happen. You don't have to do it for 5 minutes at a time. There's a nice hit by McHenry,
who doesn't hit the 3 very often. Nope. His first points of the night.
See, here's Brown. Why not foul him right now? Take time, get time, and
we'll go inside. Boone kicks it back out. Under 4. Timeout call by Jim Calhoun. 16-point lead and possession. Tonight on The Late Show, catch Jessica Simpson, Nick Lachey with Dave. And later in the week, all new with Jimmy Fallon, Usher, and Bruce Willis right here on America's most watched Network.
Jim, is really kind of interesting. Prior to Jim Calhoun going to Connecticut, Connecticut had been to the NCAA 13 times at a total of 4 wins.
Wow.
Now Jim Calhoun will have 4 wins in Final 4 games.
With no losses.
With no losses. So he has done one of the most incredible building jobs in the history of college basketball. When you take into consideration all the people that knew about Connecticut basketball that you talk to say no way they could ever be in this kind of position.
Bynum dumps it. More. Beautiful pass. Timeout, Georgia Tech.
Now, if Paul Hewitt's going to call timeouts, I'm wondering why he didn't foul to take time off the clock.
You can get a complete recap of the men's national championship game at CBSSportsline.com. As you see the CBS Sportsline stat of the game, Georgia Tech held under 30% first half. UConn had that sizable margin at the intermission of 15.
Jim, Georgia Tech, a team that shoots 47% on the year, just being totally dominated, particularly not getting any easy shots in the paint. Now, you don't want to foul Gordon. And Jim Calhoun knows that, so he's keeping the ball away from Brown.
Look at this nifty ball handling here by Gordon.
Pretty nice defensive sequence right there by Muhammad, whose knee is really hurting him.
Bynum again down that right side. Okafor sends it in to the cheerleading squad, but they have a whistle.
That's the second time in this game that Will Bynum has taken the ball to Okafor, used his chest. Watch this. He'll hit him, and then he'll push away. Jim, when I mentioned that, 4 blocks is the record for a championship game, people probably saying, what are you talking about?
Bill Russell.
How about all those great players from the past that certainly had to break that record? Matter of fact, Russell had a game in 1956. Now listen to this, Jim. He had 26 points and 27 rebounds. They didn't keep blocks in those days, and he was not the MOP of the tournament. That went to Hal Lear of Temple.
Down to 12. We'll be right back to San Antonio.
They're not fouling him.
Well, they do now.
Well, they didn't intentionally, it looked like. Look what they went for the steal. But now you can turn this into a free throw shooting game. You've got Talik Brown on the foul line. If you're Jim Calhoun, you may have to think about taking him out of here if Paul Hewitt goes to that strategy. Foul to gain possession. It's a 4-possession game. Key free throws coming up. Brown has banked one in tonight.
Yeah, well, the last time, let's give him a little credit. Banked one home and switched the other.
Yep. 54% free throw shooting.
And the UConn team is 16 of 26. Elder back in.
Now with 2:54 to go, if you're Georgia Tech, you do not have to go just for 3-point shots.
And 1 of 2. The lead was 25 at 60-35 with 12 minutes remaining.
Wow, some technique that time by Bynum.
Down to 11.
See if they'll foul again. Foul. There it is. And they didn't get the call.
They almost got the charge, though.
They've got to foul him quickly. McHenry's trying to foul him, but he can't get a piece of him.
Tell you, Josh Boone's on the floor also. He's made 1 out of 4, and he struggles all season long as well at the line.
See, I don't think you can allow this much time off the clock. You're going to try to get back in this because you got to figure Connecticut would make some of the fouls.
Now with 10 on the shot clock, Okafor makes his move and gets the hoop.
At this point in this game, strategy had to be to foul to gain possession.
And Anderson makes the save and gets bumped by McHenry, and double bonus will shoot 2. 4th on McHenry. Georgia Tech has 1 timeout remaining. 1. So Rashad Anderson at the line with 2. You know, Calhoun was looking early in the season for someone to bring not only some leadership but a swagger to this team, and this young man right here certainly has delivered the swagger and the outside shot.
Well, Jim, you know, he showed the signs of it coming off the bench against Virginia Tech this year. He only played 20 minutes in that game, but had 26 points. And then all of a sudden he became a starter in February the 24th. And he has been the starter the rest of the way and has really done the job. With Denham Brown kind of fell off a little bit in productivity.
We saw his parents, Thelma and David, and that ends his streak of 12 straight makes from the line in the tournament. Under 2 minutes to play, and it's back to 14. Stepped out of bounds. Did Marvin Lewis back to the Huskies.
Jim, Georgia Tech not employing the three-point shot, not employing fouling, and basically playing this as if they were at the end of the first half, not the end of the game.
Gordon is about to have a backcourt violation. How about that Okafor gets there in time? Taps it to Boone. Wild chase, and it's off UConn.
If Okafor had tapped that one to Boone, who went back to Okafor for a dunk, that would have about set the stage. This has not been a pretty ball game in any way, shape, or form. Connecticut much too efficient for Georgia Tech in the open court game early.
Trailed for only 55 seconds in the game. Had a 1-point lead.
See, Jack has got to look for the jump shot right there. He comes off.
He's going to drive on Gordon. Gordon with the 4 fouls reaches in, makes the thing. It's going to be a UConn night. Tomorrow, the women's team will go for the championship as well. In a final against Tennessee. That's never happened before. A double for the championship by one school.
The two giants of women's college basketball going head-to-head. Two great coaches, two great programs. Should be special.
UConn here on its way to completing one half that deal, and that game tomorrow night will be in New Orleans. 1 minute left on the season.
Well, last year it was Syracuse wiping out the Big 12 on their way to the championship. This year it is Connecticut wiping out the ACC on the way to a championship. So pretty good accomplishment by Big East schools.
Bynum 3, yes. And that brings it to 11. Well, 75-64, final 42 seconds coming up.
Gophers. I hate Gophers. Come to take it. Ow! Oh.
There you go. That song works every time. That was easy. Genius.
All cars have headlights to illuminate the road ahead, but Lexus has developed a headlight that actually rotates up to 15 degrees to reveal what's around the bend before you get to the bend. What kind of a difference can 15 degrees make? A very noticeable one.
Billy, when UConn won the championship in St. Petersburg, they had a lot of the old Calhoun players come back for that coronation of Calhoun's career, if you will, that championship, and many have returned again here tonight to celebrate with them. Daniel Marshall, I see him over there. Ray Allen is here.
Rip Hamilton, who was the MOP, that great '99 championship team. Starting to build quite a fraternity there of guys that have had incredible success. Connecticut now the all-time leader in championships of Big East regular season and postseason.
You want an incredible, Billy, an incredible oddity. This young man right here, Ed Nelson, was the ACC Rookie of the Year 2 years ago at Georgia Tech. And imagine he leaves Georgia Tech last year, a starter at Tech, going to transfer. He has transferred to Connecticut. He sits out this season. Can you imagine the odds of having his old team play his new team, and he has to sit out for the championship? He asked him before the game. He said, they're incredibly long odds. I wish I could have that kind of luck with a lottery ticket one day when I'm older. But he'll be, they say, quite a contributor here to UConn. You start thinking about some of the young players they're going to have in this program, and it's going to be a program that's going to be good for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a Jim Calhoun has a team. Guys have programs, and he certainly has one that is going to be consistently good as long as he's there.
Side three, and that's Elder to bring it to 10.
That is Elder, second team all-conference player. Not Elder we've seen, unfortunately, after that ankle injury in the last 3 NCAA tournament games. He can fill it up. I've seen him have some great games. Unfortunate to have that kind of injury that took his legs away from him.
Well, let's give Georgia Tech some credit for fighting back from 25 to 10. And there's Paul Hewitt. And this incredible 40-year-old coach building a program there at Georgia Tech. He asked, how about this, for the pregame talk, he had Dennis Scott, who was a member of the Lethal Weapon 3 team that took Tech to the 1990 Final Four. But today, before this one, it was the governor, Sonny Perdue, of the state of Georgia. And, you know, you hear that back in Atlanta. Some people might start saying, wait, there's a conspiracy theory here. Perdue, a Georgia grad, but he talked to Tech before the game. And
that'd be the last time at Georgia, man, Roy, because you remember Tech was 12-0 and got knocked off in their first loss of the year, got knocked off by Georgia in a double overtime game.
28 seconds. Bynum's 3 brings it to 8.
Jim, this is why I thought fouling early on would have been a strategy. As long as Jim Calhoun was going to say, hey, we're going to try to play the clock, go ahead and foul and extend the game. Now, I realize it's been a long shot, but that is one way that you can go ahead and get back into a ball game. Put a guy like Talik Brown on the line as much as you can, or put Boone on the line, or put Okafor on the line.
Garnett, Hewitt a moment ago. 2 coming for Anderson. Hewitt. His team got it under 10. Would never imagine that at 25. He's building something special. There are his parents.
And Jim, going back to the fact that anytime Georgia Tech held teams under 70 points, they were 24-0. You can see where the score is right now. Connecticut at 78.
Let's see if they can fire a quick 3 here.
And Connecticut never lost a game that they've got 82.
Wow, that was down and out for a second to bring it to 6. Up ahead to Anderson. Lewis went for the steal. It was a foul at the other end.
Foul on the other end, yep. Anderson wanted that one. He made a nice catch. But you know what's happened here, that Jim Calhoun wanted to go ahead and use clock, and his team really didn't function very well in that, and it brought Georgia Tech back into this ball game.
Okafor to the line. 2. 23 points, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks. And think what he did in such limited action on Saturday with the foul problems. You know, here's a kid that graduates in 3 years with honors
in finance.
And you think of all the things you got to do with your time and time management to be a player of this caliber. Then, you know, to graduate in 3 years, you can bet he made the most out of his 22 minutes when it came to time management on Saturday against Duke.
You know what else I like, Jim? When he was recruited, nobody said, oh my goodness, Connecticut has Okafor, championship assured. He's made himself an outstanding player.
Elder's 3 brings it to 7, just time too little. 11 seconds and a 7-point margin. Oh, hard fall for Bynum, but it's going against Georgia Tech.
But you can see what they're doing. Fouling, getting the ball back, shooting 3s. They've brought what was a very commanding lead back down to something that was workable. As I said, if this was the end of the first half, it would be a real momentum swing, but that's not the case.
So let's send Anderson back to the line with just under 11 seconds remaining.
Anderson, who has put himself squarely in a position next year to be one of the Big East top players.
Big time.
Yep.
Boone, Villanueva.
And Jim, what's going to be interesting when you start projecting into next year, Georgia Tech with basically their team back, Duke with basically their team, Wake Forest with all of their team, North Carolina with all of their team, and Maryland basically with all of theirs. The Atlantic Coast Conference, that was the #1 rated conference in the country this year, going to be very, very strong, as will the Big East.
Over again, Wild this time into Okafor to Talik, and that's going to do it. The game is over. UConn's the national champion for 2004. Calhoun, so relaxed here in San Antonio all week. Took his team everywhere. Didn't hold back, didn't sequester the team out of the downtown area here. Had him out on the Riverwalk. Took him to the NCAA salute presentation on Thursday. First coach to ever take his team to that event, let him be introduced. Total access. You saw when Greg and our studio guys came on. Total access here to his pregame talk. He's a changed man since his last championship. At age 61, he just a year ago was battling prostate cancer during the middle of the season. He missed 16 days of work after surgery, February 6, 2003. Says, I woke up and realized how lucky I was. I had a great family. I had 5 grandchildren, a tremendous wife, 2 healthy sons, and I was doing something I loved. UConn, there was never a doubt tonight. Not the best team on this floor. The mecca of college basketball is in Storrs, Connecticut. The Huskies take the title, 82-73. We'll hear from them as we continue from San Antonio in a moment.
A reminder, coming up tonight on CBS after your late local news, Late Show with David Letterman. Dave's guests are Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey. That's followed by the Late Late Show with Craig Kilborn. It's all ahead right here on CBS, America's most watched network. And a reminder, coming up later on the post-game show, our special tribute to the NCAA tournament, One Shining Moment. The Chevrolet Most Valuable Players of the National Championship game. For Georgia, Will Bynum with 17 points. And for the UConn Huskies, Emeka Okafor, 24 points, 15 rebounds. Let's return you down on the floor. Jim and Billy are standing by. Take it away, Jim.
All right, thank you, Greg Gumbel, and I'm here with the national champions, the UConn Huskies, and Coach Calhoun. I look around here, I see so many familiar faces. Your championship team of '99, your championship team of '04, and the family theme is really evident here tonight. Tell me about this special night.
Well, with Rip and Ray and Danielle and Donnie and so many more guys, Bull, Donnie Marshall, all those guys, and then my posse, and these people up here who are so special to us.
What made the difference here tonight? You had a 15-point lead at halftime. What was the strategy, and how did it pay off?
We wanted to keep on running, and then we fell into conservative mode, but we still had the game in hand, and I felt very comfortable. Those last 8 threes or whatever they made were absolutely special, and this wouldn't have all happened except for our great fans from the state of Connecticut.
Used to say the object is to win the game. Is that what came across your mind when you had that kind of lead?
Yeah, you know, about 6 minutes to go, we wanted to make sure that we stood on that podium. Yeah. And so instead of making it a fast shoot game, we try to have them come and catch us. When they try to press, we get it up to 20. And then they made more threes, I think, than I can count right now. And made me a little nervous, but I trust this team. And from day one, I told you guys, I think this team can win a national championship. You know what? It can.
You know what else you told us one time? Win or lose, you like this team.
No, I love this team.
Hey, let's see if we can get Emeka over here. He's taping the whole thing. Emeka. You've won the national championship. What do you have to say about this moment and to those fans up there and to the rest of the team?
Man, it's hard to put in words. You know, couldn't have done without our fans, couldn't have done without our teammates. You know, it was a great effort. It was a great season. You know, we had our ups and downs, but this moment makes it all worthwhile. You know, for 2004, we're national champions. You know, that's all of us, it's together.
Did you ever think that you weren't going to get there Saturday?
I mean, a little bit of doubt crept in my mind, but, you know, I knew if I doubted, that's when we were going to lose. So I just put up those negative thoughts and just kept hope alive. And we came out, snuck by Duke, and came out and, you know, grabbed the national title.
Congratulations.
All right, congratulations, Ben, Rashad, and all the Huskies, both old and new, the national champions here in San Antonio. We'll be back in just a moment.
As we welcome you back to San Antonio, back inside the Alamo Dome, Greg Gumbel along with Clark Kellogg and Seth Davis on the heels of Connecticut's 82-73 victory over Georgia Tech. 25-point second half lead, way too much for Georgia Tech to overcome.
Emeka Okafor, Ben Gordon, too much talent for a Georgia Tech team that had a terrific year but was not on top of their game when they needed to be most against a very, very good Connecticut team.
I thought Okafor and Boone in the opening moments of the game was huge, and Georgia Tech's inability to make free throws, especially late in the first half, they missed a lot of one-on-ones, just allowed Connecticut to run them out of the building.
Second national title for the UConn Huskies. It's now time for the presentation of the NCAA championship trophy. Here's public address announcer Gene Honda.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, Mr. Bob Bowlesby, athletic director at the University of Iowa and chairman of the Division I Men's Basketball Committee, who is joined by Dr. Miles Brand, president of the NCAA, will present the national championship trophy.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, join me on behalf of the NCAA and the Division I Men's Basketball Committee in congratulating both of these teams for a great run through the NCAA tournament. And now is it with great pleasure that on behalf of Miles Brand and the NCAA and the Division I Men's Basketball Committee, I present the 2004 Division I Men's Basketball Championship Trophy to Coach Jim Calhoun and the University of Connecticut Huskies.
I just want to congratulate Georgia Tech for making me sweat so much and really playing a great basketball game. I want to thank the greatest fans in America from the University of Connecticut, our UConn Huskies. And I really want to thank two more people. I want to thank the city of San Antonio, who put on one of the great events of all time. And lastly, a team that can really play and that I fell in love with. Thanks very, very much.